Hey everyone, welcome back to today's video. We've got a right to travel trial involving a sovereign citizen that I've been waiting to fully wrap up before sharing, so you can see the whole story in context. There are three key appearances to go through, all leading up to a very satisfying conclusion. Let's get started.
On the record in the matter of the people of the city of Lansing versus Rambo L, file numbers 22L2761882, 881, 883. Council appearance, please.
Matt Staples on behalf of the city of Lansing.
Okay, and then Rambo L is present. Do you have an attorney, sir?
I'm here by special appearance.
Okay. Mr. Staples, my understanding is that you're moving to dismiss these.
Just the failure to display ops, Your Honor. I did check the Secretary of State. His license is valid, and he did show me that license, and that he does have it in his possession, so that the misdemeanor charge would be dismissed.
Wait, did you just say he has a valid driver's license? Because if that's the case, then all of his right to travel arguments don't really hold up. He's essentially acknowledging the state's position that driving isn't a right, but a privilege.
Okay, and there's no offer on the expired plate and the failed signal?
Not at this time, Your Honor. I believe
Okay.
Mr. L is planning on contesting those charges.
Is that correct, Mr. L?
Yes.
Okay, we'll set them for a hearing. February 14th at 9:30. Any additional matters for the record, counsel?
Nothing for the city, Your Honor.
Okay, you're all set, Mr. L. We'll see you on February 14th. Okay, is this L Rambo or Rambo L? You're muted. You have an attorney, sir?
No, I'm here by special appearance.
Okay, I'll put you in the private meeting room with the city attorney.
Your Honor, we've actually already met with Mr. Rambo L before. He was requesting a formal hearing on these two files.
Okay, sounds good. Formal hearings will be set for in-person appearance.
Actually, I filed a motion January 6th. This is when it went unanswered. I would like the court to dismiss this matter.
Okay, your motion to dismiss is denied.
Completely ineffective. I do have to appreciate his attempt to ask the court to dismiss the case, despite having absolutely no valid grounds to do so. How many days does
the prosecutor have to answer my motion for motion for challenge of jurisdiction that I submitted to the clerk? And I've served everybody, all parties. How long does he have? Because that happened January 6th.
I see it's a motion to show authority.
And also a demand for dismissal, lack of jurisdiction, failure to introduce evidence of an injury in fact, challenges jurisdiction of the court to prosecute. That was filed January 6th.
We only have one motion attached to the file. I don't see the other motions that you're referencing, sir.
It's timestamped by the court. I have it right here.
I see a motion to show authority, which the court has denied. And then there was a memo that was attached. There was not any other motion. I don't read via Zoom.
It's filed with the clerk. Everybody was served.
Mr. Staples, did you get a copy of the motion he's referencing?
I see a copy of the motion to show authority in our file. I don't recognize it as any sort of valid motion or pleadings, but I see a copy of it in our file.
Agreed. That's the same the court has. It's a motion to show authority. The other motions that he's referencing was not properly filed with this court or served as the court, neither the court nor Mr. Staples' office is in receipt of it. The motion to show authority was denied, is not in proportion with the Michigan court rules. It does cite, however, Luke 11:46, the King James Version, Luke 11:52, as well as some other articles and treaties.
Apparently, our resident brain donor has decided that the Michigan court rules are taking a back seat today to the King James Version of court rules during these proceedings.
But nonetheless, as indicated by Mr. Staples from the Office of City Attorney, this is not a lawful or appropriately filed motion, and for that reason, it was denied before this court. But we will
Well, I
set
like
your
to
matter.
challenge jurisdiction right now. I have the right to
file an
travel.
appropriate motion with the court under the Michigan court rules to challenge jurisdiction. But what we won't do is entertain motions under the King James Version of the Bible. Okay?
That was a different motion you're referring to. That was the motion to show authority.
We don't have the other motion, sir. So you can file that motion. It's just we don't have it. I don't know why we only have one motion. That we don't have the other one you're referencing. So you'd have to file that and serve it on the city attorney. We'll give you time to do that. I'm going to set both of these matters for hearing, though.
I can't chill. You telling me I don't have the right to challenge jurisdiction right now? I want to challenge jurisdiction right now.
You can file a motion for challenging the jurisdiction, sir.
I can't do a verbal motion?
No, you cannot.
So you telling me I don't have the right to do a verbal motion?
You don't have a right to do that. You're gonna file it in writing and you're gonna serve it properly on the parties that you're filing it against. Okay, sir? March 14th at 10:30 in person at the court will be the date for the formal hearing, and then we'll hear any arguments on motions if necessary. You have any questions today, Mr. L? Okay, well, then you're all set. Thank you.
All right. Now we move on to the third and final appearance of First Blood O, the King James Version.
Okay, you can have a seat. Thank you. Today's the date and time set for a formal hearing. I have, I believe, one witness on Zoom. Counsel, you can proceed.
Officer Vanderwerf, would you state your name for the records,
Oh,
please?
you want to call him? Let me.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Swear, no worries. Vanderwerf, can you raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're going to give is the truth and the whole truth under the penalty of perjury?
Yes, Judge.
For the sake of brevity, I won't drag you through the prosecutor's questioning of the officer who stopped Sylvester Malone El Bay. I'll just cover the key points.
So I was traveling southbound on King when I observed a pickup truck in front of me that was changing lanes, failing to use its signal. So at that time, I activated my overhead lights on the vehicle to initiate a traffic stop. And then I made contact with the driver, who was later identified as a Rambo L. In our contact, he ended up handing me a piece of paper. At brief glance, when I looked at the piece of paper, it appeared to have what I believe was certain MCL codes that the subject may have typed onto the piece of paper. When I had asked him for a driver's license or identification, he was not really very cooperative. I also don't believe I was provided any insurance. At that time, I decided to issue him a citation for failing to signal, changing lanes, and failing to display a valid license, and then also the license plate through the system was expired.
Mr. L, did you want to question the witness?
Yes. The document that you were referring to, it was a travel document. I was showing you I was traveling versus driving. And I tried to explain that to you, and then you held me on the side of the road for approximately an hour. I requested a supervisor because they might better understand what I was doing, and you never provided that for me. Is that correct?
That's actually incorrect, because the reason that you were held on the stop for as long as you were is because I was waiting for a supervisor. So when I realized the supervisor was not there, I contacted him by phone, at which time he said he was delayed. And when I came back up to the traffic stop, I did ask if you wanted to wait further for a sergeant, and I don't believe that you did. And then you drove off when you were free to go.
Yes. Is it correct that I was held on the road for approximately an hour waiting for this whole encounter to end?
I do not remember if it was an hour specifically, but I do remember that the time length was probably, I would say probably close to that at the very least.
Well, it was an hour and it caused me to be late for my son's banquet.
So apparently it's the officer's fault that you chose to stand your ground on a delusional belief system instead of just following the law and making it to your son's banquet. And let's not forget, the officer testified the delay happened because you asked for a supervisor. So that one's on you.
And the reason, and I never got to speak to a supervisor. That's all the questions I had.
Okay, any redirects?
No redirect, Your Honor.
Okay, any additional witnesses today?
None from the city.
Okay, Mr. Earl, are you calling any witnesses today, or did you want to give your own testimony?
I would like to, I have some, I have a defense, my motion.
Okay, well, you filed a motion?
Yeah, I filed a motion, served across the
When did
city
you file a
attorney.
motion?
It was filed, it was mailed February 18th.
You filed a motion and mailed it February 18th. Did you serve a copy?
To the clerk of the courts and also to the city attorney's office.
Did you receive any motion, sir?
Your Honor, we did receive a motion. It did not have any hearing date stated on it. We had no timetable for a response. I would be happy to respond to the motion on the record orally or provide the court with briefing if they would like.
The court didn't get a copy of the motion in February.
I sent it to the clerk. And,
Yeah, typically when that happens, it's just attached to the file. I don't have a copy of any motion.
Oh, well, I did my due diligence. I sent a copy to him. He has his.
Well, I don't know that you did your due diligence because when you file a motion, you got to get a hearing date for that motion. And so
who's supposed to give me a hearing?
you got to get the hearing date from the clerk's office.
From the clerk's office?
Yeah.
So why did they give me one?
Did you contact them for a hearing date?
I contacted them, yeah.
And asked for
And I
hearing
asked
dates
them,
for your
and
motion?
I asked when was my hearing. They confirmed that it was today.
For your motion.
And I asked, did I have a hearing date? And they said,
and you do have a hearing date, but that's not what I asked you. Did you ask them, did you have a hearing date for your motion?
This is exactly where representing yourself can get tricky and why I always say it's in your best interest to hire an attorney. Court rules and procedures aren't nearly as simple as TV shows like Perry Mason make them seem to. In Michigan, you don't just file a motion. You also have to file a notice of hearing, which is typically attached to the motion. Once it's been properly served to all parties, you're assigned a hearing date, and that's when your motion is actually considered. That said, most courts are pretty lenient with pro-issue litigants, and this court is no exception. They'll go ahead and hear his improperly filed motion today and rule on it, but it's not going to change the outcome.
for my motion?
Yes.
They didn't tell me, but I did provide to him an order for the motion that gave him 21 days to respond.
Okay, you can make your motion before the court because I don't have a copy. You can make it now orally.
Okay, well, now comes the beneficiary for Rambo L, defendant in error, here by special appearance, not submitting to the court's jurisdiction, hereby moves the court to strike and dismiss the complaint filed by the officer Zenderbar. Am I pronouncing that right? Sorry if I'm not. For lack of ratification and commencement, no corpus delicti, no plaintiff lacks jurisdiction, personal confirmed jurisdiction. Christina Simmons being appointed as trustee, the prosecutors being appointed as co-trustee, I, Rambo L, an executor and beneficiary of a set of account. Also, I filed a declaration of non-citizenship nationality because I've done a name change.
My goodness, you can't be this slow. First off, changing your name doesn't automatically renounce your citizenship. In fact, that's not even remotely accurate. Second, in Michigan, getting a name change requires petitioning the circuit court. And guess what? The circuit courts derive their authority from the Michigan Supreme Court. And that same system is what gives district courts their jurisdiction, as well as the SO. If your argument is that the district court has no jurisdiction over you, then by that logic, the circuit court wouldn't have had jurisdiction to grant your name change in the first place. It's a classic case of trying to have it both ways.
Well, my point of authorities are the United States District of Columbia Corporation in Volume 20 Corpus Juris Section 1785, we find United States government as a foreign corporations with respect to the states. Since the corporation is fictitious, is a fictitious person, it can't see, speak, smell, or touch itself. It's a fictional, is a fiction in the real world. It needs a conducting, transmitting utility, a liaison, some sort of connection to a fictional person. Constitutional Amendment number 1, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of a religion, prohibiting free exercise thereof, abridging freedom of speech or right of press or right of people peaceful assemble, petition the government for redress of grievance. Number 5, Constitutional Amendment. The right of people should be secure in their person, houses, papers, in effect against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrant shall be issued upon probable cause supported by an oath or affirmation, particularly describing the place search of persons, things to be seized. And then number 7, Constitutional Amendment, suits at common law where value of controversy exceeding $20, the right of a jury trial shall be preserved, and no fact tried by a jury shall be otherwise re-examined in any court of the United States according to the rules of common law. I asked for a jury trial, I didn't get that.
Wrong again. While Article 1, Section 14 of the Michigan Constitution does allow for jury trials in civil cases when properly requested, there's no Michigan statute or court rule that guarantees a jury trial for civil infractions.
Rambo L is a man, people, but not a person. I was not operating in commerce, nor was I a driver on the road for travel. A driver is an employee transporting goods or passengers. Rambo was just merely traveling in my private property. Here are some examples of my Supreme Court constitutional defenses. Number 1, case number 1, right to travel is part of a liberty where a citizen cannot be deprived of due process under the Fifth Amendment, Kent versus Duels, 357 U.S. 116, 125.
Some of you might remember that in my last video, I briefly mentioned Kent versus Dulles. That case deals with passport denial based on political discrimination. It's not about driver's licenses or vehicle registration. So it doesn't apply here. The same goes for the handful of cases he's about to cite. I'll let him run through his case law defense, and then I'll briefly explain why each one misses a mark.
Case number 2, I have the right to travel freely and unencumbered pursuant to Shapiro versus Thomas, 394 U.S. P. 618. That right is so basic, it doesn't even need to be mentioned. The state of Michigan arbitrarily and erroneously perverted my right into a privilege and issue a license and a fee for it. Murdoch versus Pennsylvania, 319 U.S. 105. Supreme Court trumps everything, says that no state can convert a secured liberty into a privilege and issue a license and fee for it. Case number 4, Shuttle versus Birmingham, Alabama. It shows that I can ignore a license and engage in the right with immunity. Case number 5, Marbury versus Madison, 5 U.S. 137, shows that any law in violation of the Constitution is null and void. Case number 6, Shuttleworth versus Birmingham, 373 U.S. 262, says I may ignore the license and the fee and engage with the right with immunity. That means you can't punish me. And United States versus Bishop defines willfulness as an evil motive or intent to avoid a known duty, task under the law with a morality certain. I submit I couldn't have been doing an evil task. I totally followed the Constitution in the Supreme Court. Bryers versus United States says it shows how the judge is supposed to interpret the Constitution, and it's supposed to be interpreted in the favor of me. A.M. Jurisprudence, Volume 16, Section 97 of the Constitutional Law section says it should be received as a liberal interpretation in favor of the citizen, especially true with respect to those who were designated to safeguard the liberty. and security of a citizen in regards to both persons and property. See note 31, Bryers versus United States. No state may convert a liberty into a privilege. Murdoch versus Pennsylvania. An appearance ticket is not accusatory instrument. It doesn't confer jurisdiction over the defendant. People versus Gabay, 670 New York 2D 92517. I was not engaged in a commercial trade at the time of the alleged infraction, and I do not proceed to say a license is upon a constitutional detention. Motor vehicle means every description of a carrier drawn by mechanical power used in commercial purposes on a highway.
All right, let's start from the top and work our way through this. First, you mentioned Shapiro versus Thomas, which is already incorrect because the actual case is Shapiro versus Thompson. That case deals with residency requirements for state benefits, not the legality of driver's license laws, so it doesn't help your argument. Next is Murdoch versus Pennsylvania, which involved the unconstitutional requirement for religious groups to obtain a license to distribute literature door to door. Again, that has nothing to do with driver's licenses. You also cited both Shuttle versus Birmingham and Shuttlesworth versus Birmingham, which seems like getting the same point wrong twice. That case deals with permits and licensing tied to constitutionally protected civil liberties. While the right to travel is protected, operating a motor vehicle is not the same thing. Then there's Marbury versus Madison, which establishes that unconstitutional laws are void. But the Constitution, specifically the 10th Amendment, grants states the authority to govern themselves. That includes enacting and enforcing driver's license laws, which are not unconstitutional, .u.s. 5. Bishop doesn't apply here either, since the law was knowingly violated regardless of intent. And Breyers v. U.S. is irrelevant because there are no federal agencies involved in the situation AS for the definition of a motor vehicle under 18 U.S.C., which refers to it as a mechanically driven carriage in commerce. You haven't provided any evidence that you were engaged in commerce, so that definition doesn't apply. The relevant definitions are found in Michigan law, specifically MCL 257.33 and 257.79, which define a motor vehicle as a self-propelled device used to transport people or property on public roads. There's no requirement anywhere in that definition that limits it to commercial activity, as every one of these citations fails to support your position. They simply don't apply.
And then there's neither injury nor trespasses. Any trespasses. All crimes are commercial. 27 CFR 72.11. And every alleged crime has to have a nature and cause and be prosecuted by the name of the people of the state. I don't have a contract with the state. I don't see an injured party. I don't know why I'm here.
No. Any additional
I
argument on your motion?
would like the court, I would ask the court to dismiss this to failure to state a claim where relief can be granted.
The court has heard the argument. I'm first address your motion, Mr. L, and I'm going to deny your motion as clearly indicated in the response by the city. Your claims would be most appropriately brought before the Court of Claims, and so you can't challenge a constitutional issue in this court, okay? As it relates to the authority and the process to bring this matter before the district court as it relates to your civil infractions, you have an expired plate and a failure to signal. Again, a jurisdiction or venue before this court is appropriate. This is a situation or incident that occurred in the area of South MLK, Martin Luther King Boulevard. That's in the city of Lansing, Ingham County, state of Michigan. And so you're subject to the laws and the ordinances of the city of Lansing, but also the laws under the Michigan compiled laws. Here in this district court, we are subject to the Michigan court rules. And so although I gave leniency with your motion, it was not properly filed and or served. But it also does not comport with the Michigan compiled laws or Michigan court rules. And so for those reasons, it is denied. Now, as to the civil infraction, failed to signal and expired plate from December 3rd, 2022. We do not provide any valid dispute or defense to these civil infractions. You could have appeared and showed information that demonstrated you did have a valid plate at the time, or that you even have one now, which could reduce the citation, but that's not taking place. And so I'm going to sustain both violations of civil infractions. There's a fine of $125 on each. Okay, sir?
My next defense, am this done or can I say something else?
You can say something else. Actually, if you had any further defense, but you said.
My next defense would be, Michigan allows 72 hours to register any vehicle when it's first purchased. He never asked for anything. I never got a chance to explain myself on the side of the road.
Okay, do you have proof that you had just purchased it within 72 hours?
I don't have the title.
Okay, thank you, sir. If the defense is not meaningful, if you can't provide any evidence to support that defense. That being said, your fine is $125 on each file. When do you intend to make payment?
Do I have a chance to appeal this?
You can.
I would like to appeal.
Okay, you want to file an appeal as a civil infraction?
I want to file an appeal today.
Okay, you can file a motion for reconsideration. But you need to follow Michigan court rules, okay? We don't submit to the sovereign rules, okay? You take that to the sovereign court.
I like how the judge basically tells him to take it to his sovereign court, which, let's be honest, sounds more like a daycare for grown adults. All right, guys, that's the end of the video. No surprise here. The sovereign citizen crowd comes up short once again. If you liked the video, leave a like. If you didn't, hit dislike. And don't forget to drop a comment and subscribe with notifications on so you don't miss any future content.